to the Mashup.
Tell me whether I'm wrong or right. East or west, up or down, side to side. I sit to stand and fall to fly. Of all of my impulsive plans, pop and lock and salsa dances on demand. I follow leading off the map and stop the chatter, scream happily.
Welcome to the Mashup.
Welcome to the mashup. Welcome to the
What the hell happened to Captain Crunch? Somebody needs to explain this to me like I'm 4 years old. Their target demographic. So I had Captain Crunch for breakfast this morning. First time in a very long time. I missed it. It was wonderful. But it's not the way it used to be. I didn't have a whole bunch of lacerations on the top of my mouth. I didn't need to get stitches on my tongue. All of the crunchiness that you knew and loved from that over-the-top brick of a cereal is gone. This is Crunchflation. They did something to the recipe, presumably to make it cheaper, and now it's barely even crunchier than Lucky Charms. What in the fuck happened to this country? We used to be a serious place.
For once, I can agree with you. Captain Crunch is fantastic. Oh my God. We're starting 148 with me and Twos agreeing on something. Captain Crunch was fantastic. And I'm sad to hear that it no longer has its crunchiness. That is, well, and a long line of things on
vastly
this
diminished. Diminished.
Welcome to Mashup 148. Twos. How are you doing this week, sir?
I'm doing all right. Been a little bit sick, but getting over it, I guess. How about you?
It has been a stretch. I mean, we got a full lineup today. But of course, was in Calgary for the Injection of Truth. You went to the Timothy Caulfield, among others, the next day. And then it's just been a roller coaster of a week, which we're going to get into all the things this week. But if you're watching online, make sure you like, you share, and I'm going to say get a rooster tattoo, but I don't know. Does Twos have a clever thing today? Oh, and say we're terrific. Terrific. Okay. I got you. Yeah. Clever. Happy Airborne Friday to the boys, Jamie Sinclair and all the military men out there. Happy Airborne Friday. And we got a guest sitting in the background before we bring them in. If you got any community notes for the end of the show, make sure that you put it in the comments, and we'll try our best to bring up anything going on in the coming weeks. And of course, to start the Coots 6.5, we got a Mark Morrison.
Mark Morrison. So this is a guy who was arrested in Regina for drug trafficking, and we don't have enough time in this entire show to go over his rap sheet, but there's about 8 things in 2016, 7 counts in 2017, 11, 12, 13 in 2018, 6 or something in 2020. It was during the lockdowns. You got to appreciate the fact that he wasn't getting out as much. 2021, a shit ton. 2025, a whole bunch. This guy, just catch and release. Catch and release. This guy has a rap sheet that's longer than my balls on a hot day. And he just keeps getting out and getting out and getting out. And meanwhile, the Coots guys are in there for 6.5 years for mischief.
There you go. Well, I don't want to have to think about that thought, but certainly the rap sheet is quite long. And as we start out every show, folks, the Coots 6.5. We like to point out the ineptitude in our judicial system, it's
not ineptitude. It's willfully done at this point.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, let's bring in our first guest. We got lawyer Jeff Rath. Jeff, thanks for hopping on with us.
Always a pleasure, guys. How are you?
Well, it's been a week. I mean, you've been to as many events as any of us, and then of course your week now being called a traitor, and a whole bunch of other things. I guess just this delegation to DC. I don't know. Give us your thoughts, and then
maybe just a little bit of background in case.
Sure.
Yeah.
For people under a rock.
For people that haven't seen the degree to which my life has been turned upside down this week, it all started actually at Injection of Truth 2.0, where I got pigeonholed by Rachel Parker, who I've known for a while, an independent journalist from True North, and now she's on her own. And she said, "Hey, Jeff, you're always working on interesting stuff." She said, "Is there anything besides the COVID stuff that you're working on that's kind of cool?" And I said, oh, yeah. I said, I'm doing this really interesting thing with the Alberta Prosperity Project that I was a co-founder of and have been working with, an organization that is aimed at educating our fellow Albertans on the benefits of Alberta independence. And for people listening, if you haven't joined APP already, we're over 55,000 members now, more members than the United Conservative Party of Alberta. Please join us. It sends a really strong signal to Danielle Smith and the other people cowering in her cabinet room that Albertans are in favor of independence. So please, if you're listening to this, join APP. So anyway, I'll get back to, sorry for the commercial message. Rachel Parker says, you're working on something interesting. And I said, yeah. I said, as a matter of fact, I'm working with APP to send a delegation to Washington to speak to the Trump administration on a fact-finding basis to see what level of interest there would be in the Trump administration, for the support of Alberta independence, with a view towards Alberta either, entering into an economic union with the United States, becoming an American territory or full American statehood. Oh my goodness, she says, that's really interesting. Would you mind doing an interview? And I said, no. I said, I'll happily chat with you about it, whatever. So I do this little 1 minute, 2 minute interview with Rachel, who's a fantastic interviewer, by the way. No offense to you guys, but she does a really nice job. And
we agree.
So
we're good. We're good. Keep going.
So anyway, Rachel does this little interview, and then she clips out 41 seconds of it, which is, just kind of a typical, Jeff Rath, this is why I'm pissed off kind of rant. And she puts it out on Twitter as to why it is that Albertans want to leave Canada. And it's largely because we're sick and tired of being governed by idiots from Ontario and Quebec. This thing goes viral. Within 24 hours, we were up to over 5 billion views on Twitter. Then Charlie Kirk, of course, who's more than just slightly Trump adjacent. He's a personal friend of the president's. Then retweets it. So then it gets another couple million views. Then yesterday morning, Elon Musk comments on Charlie Kirk's tweet to the effect that, Elon Musk and his people think that Alberta statehood is an excellent idea that should be pursued. And, things snowballed from there. So, yesterday morning, I started my day at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting up so that I could do Fox and Friends with Brian Kilmeade, who's a really nice guy, by the way. Did Fox and Friends yesterday morning talking about our Alberta statehood project. And I want everybody to understand, everybody puts me down as Alberta 51. We're not affiliated with Alberta 51, any other organization. My personal view is the whole 51st state thing has so many negative connotations. We deliberately use the word Alberta statehood, not Alberta 51. And because statehood leaves it open that we could be either an independent nation state, we could be an independent nation state with the status of a U.S. territory, or we could apply for full U.S. Statehood, under the rules, under the U.S. Constitution. But the long and the short of it is we're definitely of the view that it's time for Alberta to pack its bags and, dirty oil and dirty diesel trucks and go, as in go from Canada. And the great news for all of us is we don't even have to leave home, right? So that's kind of, that's my pitch, right? So anyway, this thing has just gone completely nuts. We're working the steering committee that we had together before my my little brief interview with Rachel, which probably let the cat out of the bag a little bit sooner than we were planning. But anyway, whatever, is working ahead. Obviously, we're in contact with Elon Musk. We're in contact with people in the White House. Things are moving forward. We're consulting with our fellow Albertans. We're putting together, we're having meetings and putting together, briefing packages. We're putting together lists of issues and questions, that we're going to have for the administration in terms of, gauging their support for independence. What would the Trump administration be prepared to do in support of Alberta independence? Because there's a lot of legitimate concerns and questions that people have about, independence. First of all, I'll just quickly rattle off what I say the benefits are, right? First of all, the biggest one, no federal income tax, right? Boom, done. So 30 billion a year, no longer leaving Alberta to go to Ottawa to be spread out amongst their cronies in Quebec and, liberal voters in the Maritimes or wherever else. All that money stays in Alberta. Think about the economic boom that will cause if all that money stays in Albertan pockets to be spent in Alberta on things within the Alberta economy. $30 billion, right? Then The next big benefit of Alberta independence: no more carbon tax, right? So carbon tax gone, federal income tax gone, federal excise taxes on gasoline gone, right? So people literally the day after Alberta declares independence, gasoline prices and diesel prices in Alberta will be cut in half, right? Home heating fuel, home heating costs cut in half, right? So we see those are really, really positive benefits, right? But on the other hand, we acknowledge the legitimate concerns of a lot of our fellow citizens. We have a lot of people that are reaching retirement age. They're concerned about their pensions. They're concerned about, what it's going to be like to live on a fixed income where their pensions are denominated in Canadian dollars, which after Alberta leaves Canada, the Canadian dollar, we all know, will have the value of the Polish zloty, right? So,
oh, nice callback.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, one of the things that we need, one of the questions that, Alberta pensioners have for the Trump administration is, would the Trump administration, in support of Alberta independence and economic union with the United States, be prepared to convert all Alberta residents' savings, retirement plans, and investments, from Canadian dollars into US dollars at par, right? I mean, that's going to be a big issue for our pensioners, and it's a very big issue on our, on the list of, of things that need to be, discussed and determined, in terms of this overall project, so that people can make a fully informed decision, right? And a whole bunch of other, related issues. So, that's what we're doing. Everybody needs to understand that this isn't some sort of nefarious, blah, 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 Trump is going to take over Alberta. And this is, the Americans are, asserting, attacking Canadian sovereignty. No, this is a democratic process. Adult Albertans, and there's literally like APP right now has, and the membership has been shooting up this week since all of this has been announced, right? There's literally tens of thousands of adult Albertans that have committed to volunteering to make this happen, right? Like we have more, I think I mentioned already, APP has more members right now than the United Conservative Party of Alberta. And a good number of them are part of Danielle Smith's base. So I hope she's paying attention to that when we say that, rather than forcing us to go through the bullshit, referendum petition process that Jason Kenney set up, that, that Danielle Smith has the authority of as premier just to call a referendum in 6 months, right? But anyway, be that as it may, we're going to be working towards that goal one way or another, that there be a referendum held this calendar year in the province of Alberta to ask adult Albertans what their views are with regard to either remaining in Canada and paying, double or triple the taxes that they should pay, and paying double or triple what they should pay for milk and other things, thanks to the Canadian messed up
the diarrhea cartel.
Yeah, the supply management system, whatever. So we're going to ask adult Albertans how they feel about all of that stuff, and they can express their views in the context of a binding referendum that would then hopefully launch Alberta on the road to true independence from the tyranny that we've been living under from Eastern Canada, going back to our inception. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm sick and tired of being the citizen of a colony of Quebec and Ontario, and being treated like some sort of colonial moron, on the regular, because we support Alberta oil and gas development. We think that we understand that diesel trucks deliver our groceries, and the diesel trucks and the smell of diesel exhaust is the smell of success, prosperity, and breakfast being delivered to your grocery store. We also understand that our oil isn't dirty, and that it's a good thing, and that the entire world needs clean, abundant energy in order to thrive and prosper economically. And for anybody in Ontario and Quebec that unfortunately don't understand that and think that punitive taxes kicking working people in the teeth are somehow going to change the weather, to all of those people I say, well, thank you, God bless you, bless your hearts, carry on your pretty little selves wherever you want to carry on. But
the best thing they could do for Canada's carbon footprint would be to kick out Alberta.
Well, I would think. I mean, all those people that truly are concerned about Canada's carbon footprint, and Canada and Gibault being able to hold his head high with China when he tells them to stop building coal-fired power plants and the rest of it is to say, well, we hate carbon so much. We drove our biggest oil-producing province with the third largest oil reserves in the world out of Canada because we didn't want to be associated with that kind of disgusting, icky energy. I mean, think about the virtue signaling they can do then, right? I'm with you 100%. I think it'd be good for them.
Now you brought up Jason Kenney before. He just tweeted recently about you. He referred to you as a quote treasonous kook.
I know. I love that hate tweet yesterday. It's like he cares. Oh, that's so nice, right? No, but I mean, it's so funny because first of all, let's take a step back, right? Let's remember that Jason Kenney has recently been found by a Superior Court justice in the province of Alberta in the Court of King's Bench to have plausibly engaged in misfeasance in public office when he had Dina Hinshaw fraudulently put her signature to Chief Medical Officer of Health orders that were really orders issued by the Kenney cabinet to lock all of us up in our homes, right?
What's the difference between malfeasance and misfeasance?
They're relatively synonymous in the context of what we're talking about. So yeah, it's same thing. The words are used interchangeably, I think, in the cases and whatever.
All right.
And to the extent that there is any difference and one means something different than the other, it's news to me. But I'll look into it for you.
Oh, I was just curious.
No. I mean, we use the words interchangeably. But anyway, the funny thing is, so that Kenney sends out this thing, and then he says he sued me when we tried to merge the conservative parties, and he's just a blowhard seeking publicity and blah 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 blah. So anyway, first of all, as I've said to a lot of people, I don't consider myself a treasonous anything. I am first and foremost an Albertan. After Justin Trudeau declared martial law against all of us and started seizing people's bank accounts and doing all of the heinous things that he did, including throwing our friend Tamara Leach in chains and manacles and dragging her back and forth across the country, as many times as they did in chains. I really don't consider myself to be Canadian anymore. I think I didn't leave Canada; Canada left me. And I've been feeling that way for a long time. I'm a fifth generation Albertan. My family came here in the 1860s, and we're not going anywhere. So I don't consider myself to be a treasonous anything. To the extent that I'm a kook, yeah. I mean, people that know me, it's like, Jeff, he can be really crazy, man. Like, watch Jeff sometimes because he's a bit nuts. Sure, I'll own that. Like, I don't care. I mean, I played hockey, I played football, I played rugby. I grew up in northern Alberta, rather. Sorry. And yeah, we were all a bit crazy. Like you live in northern Alberta and grow up shooting coyotes and driving pickup trucks and all the stuff that we do. It gets a bit nuts sometimes. Sure, I'll own that. Okay. But as to Kenney, suggesting that I did anything improper when a client of mine asked me to look into judicially reviewing or challenging the idea that they could simply wave a magic wand and make the Progressive Conservative Party of Alberta disappear in favor of, the Kenney Unite the Right scam, because that's what it ended up being when you saw that, Kenney took over the party and then they all became a bunch of Trudeau liberals, right? I'm
with you 100% on that. I was banging the drum on that from the get-go.
Right. So that's, this is Kenney, alleging that I sued him. Well, I didn't sue him. I had a client that was interested in pursuing legal action in and around that issue. And then to the extent that, the stuff about seeking publicity, like you guys know, I'm really busy. I'm not burning up your phone lines, trying to get on your show on the regular basis. That thing.
We're reaching out to you.
Well, and that thing with Rachel, God bless her, it was kind of like it just happened the way that it happened. I mean, I have to say honestly, there was no plan to releasing that information at this time, let alone me becoming the point person or lightning rod for all of the things that are going on. Like I was actually corresponding with a friend of mine who's fairly senior in the Alberta government the other day, and this person said, "So Jeff, I really want to know, like, what level of support do you have for what's going on?" And I said, the best way to describe it is this. I said, the letters, emails, and offers of support are running 20-1 versus the death threats, right? Right? Which, like people are threatening to burn my office down, all that kind of stuff, right? Just all the crazy lefties are really, really, really upset that adult Albertans want to engage in a democratic process where adult Albertans that have the right to vote have the ability to express themselves democratically in a manner that would cause their government to act in the manner selected by the people. I mean, I just thought that was democracy. I didn't realize that, you know, that democracy equals treason and democracy equals, you know, treachery, or democracy equals sedition, et cetera, et
Democracy is
cetera.
important as long as it agrees with everything that Ottawa has to say. As long as you're voting for them, then it's democracy.
If I may, certainly on this show, we don't think you're a traitor by any stretch of the imagination. And the reason I don't know, I'd put it to you, the reason why it goes absolutely ballistic is this is the conversation Albertans are having behind closed doors. And one of the things about leading a delegation down there is, like, I think people just want more information. If I hear anything, it's like, well, what would that actually look like? What would that actually mean? Because, you know, you can run a thousand different scenarios on this, but nobody really knows, and certainly the government isn't going and doing it. So when do you foresee leading a group down there? Any details around it, just for the average Albertan? Paying attention to it.
When I initially spoke to Rachel, you know, I was of the view that 30 days was sort of the realistic timeline, right? And then, of course, this thing is all, you know, as we've seen this week, has really snowballed and has really caught the imagination and the attention of, you know, not only people in Alberta, but people within the Trump administration, within the United States. You know, there's a lot of support for this idea on both sides of the border. Let's put it that way, right? I don't want to go too far in terms of telling tales out of school. But the word that we're getting is, and it's not surprising given where they're at in terms of getting their cabinet up and running and all the rest of the things that are going on, that the administration is just beyond busy for the next 2 weeks, you know, with a number of other things that, you know, they're dealing with, including probably making Justin Trudeau cry again. You know, it's not
that doesn't take 2 weeks.
Right. But anyway, you know, it's probably, you know, we're probably on that 3 or 4 week timeline, you know, according to to our contacts, you know, literally in the White House, right? Is kind of is the time frame that they're looking at. And of course, from the perspective of the steering committee, and again, I want to talk a little bit about this steering committee. And again, I've kind of become the lightning rod and the focal point for everybody's hatred. And, I've got broad shoulders, so I mean, I'll deal with it. I mean, it's not that new to me over the course of my career. I mean, people have been hating me for defending the rights of Indigenous people for years, so they may as well hate me for this too. Where I'm going with this is that, having that extra time is good because our steering committee wants to get together and we're putting together briefing packages. We want to make sure that we've consulted with our fellow Albertans in terms of the questions that people want to have addressed and have answers for when we come back. Because this is as a fact-finding mission, so we can report back to the people of Alberta with regard to answers to the questions, including the appetite for conversion of Alberta savings and pensions at par, and any other questions and issues that people may have arising out of the 4 years of work that we've done at the Alberta Prosperity Project, talking to Albertans about independence and putting together a fairly large database of consultative data that we've gathered through the literally hundreds and hundreds of town halls that APP has held all over the province in the context of educating Albertans on the value of independence. So
now here's something that
Sorry.
The one thing that I look at that seems to be completely missing from this conversation, and just for the sake of trying to be as holistic about this as possible, I'm not going to say unbiased because I probably feel more strongly about it than you do. But where are the people saying Canada's a good place, you should stay, and here's why?
Well, I mean, because we're doing what we're doing, I mean, we're having conversations on the ongoing basis. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of people contacting my office willing to engage in thoughtful discussions. They want to scream and yell and threaten and, and then hang up. Right. But, the people that, I have spoken to some, and I have to say they're very few. like in terms of like, and this is completely unscientific and anecdotal, but man on the street, people coming up to me and talking to me or talking to people about independence in general, I have run into very, very, very few people that have said they're so attached to Canada that they would vote no. But I have spoken to a couple, and some of the feedback that we've gotten is, and this is a concern that has to be addressed. Some people are very attached, for whatever reason, to Alberta Health and Alberta Health Services, and our present healthcare system in the province of Alberta. And obviously, those people need to understand that there's no intention through Alberta, the independence movement, to in any way alter or change the HMO that is Alberta Health. If people like that system, I would imagine that they're going to have the ability within the Republic of Alberta to express their desire democratically to keep that system in place. I would imagine there's lots of other people that would say, hey, but we'd like to kind of go to a hybrid system like the UK, where we have, mixed private, public, whatever. I mean, obviously, this gives us an opportunity to have changes, because we can actually have a healthcare discussion in Alberta about changing healthcare in Alberta without having Ottawa threatening to withhold our money from us because we dared to have a conversation about healthcare that doesn't agree with Ottawa, right? So there's people that are concerned about healthcare. That's an issue that's been flagged that needs to be addressed. And there's people that just have an emotional attachment to that red maple leaf, right? They're attached to Canada. They're attached to the idea of Canada. They like being part of a greater whole, all of those types of things, right? But, our feeling is, and again, this is democracy, right? So you take your feelings for Canada, and you take your, your love of your little Canadian passport that, the Trudeau is now microchipped so that they can track us everywhere we go through our passport, and, all that kind of stuff. But, taking all of that aside, if you balance that against no more federal income tax, no more excise tax, no more carbon tax, for certain people in Alberta, I've heard, hell yeah, I won't need a passport to go to Vegas anymore. I could just go straight there, right? I mean, people have different reasons for voting for independence. Some of them, are more thoughtful than others. Some of them are more, hey, this is going to be great. I can drive down to my place in Whitefish without going through the border anymore. How awesome would that be? People vote for different reasons, right? So everybody has their different reasons for being, in support of Alberta statehood. And I, again, writ large, like nation statehood independence, right? Versus, those people that feel that they're so attached to Canada that they feel that they're far more Canadian than they are Albertan. And, they're not sure how comfortable they would be with this idea that, they wouldn't be Canadian anymore if they're in Alberta. And I say to those people, first of all, you're not going to lose your Canadian citizenship under Canadian national law. No Canadian ever loses Canadian citizenship or Canadian identity. Even if you become an American citizen and swear an oath saying you're renouncing all other citizenships, foreign and domestic, the Canadian government doesn't recognize it. So you're not losing your Canadian citizenship. And for those Canadians that don't want to remain living in Alberta, there's lots of Canada left to live in. You can go live there, right? Nobody's stopping you. It's a free and democratic, the independent Republic of Alberta is going to be a free and democratic, country. And we're not going to tell people that they have to get a vaccine that they don't want to take before they can leave, right?
And the people who, I would argue, the people who take umbrage with this, deciding to leave, would be for everybody's benefit.
Well, they'd be happier. We'd be happier. Obviously, one of the big problems is going to be, I would think an influx of citizens rushing into Alberta to become Alberta citizens, because to get the hell out of Canada. I mean, obviously, and that's one of the issues that we're going to have to address is, Alberta immigration controls, both, prior to and post referendum, and make sure that they don't try to flood our province with no voters and all the sleazy stuff that the Federalists can do, right?
I think probably the best thing to do would be to apply the same rules to immigrants as you do to babies, which is you have to live here for 18 more years until you can vote.
Well, I would think it'd be a hard sell with, even Alberta appointed judges to say, at the end of the day, somebody who's as a Canadian citizen residing in Alberta, shouldn't be allowed to vote, regardless of where they're from, whether they're an immigrant from Ontario, Saskatchewan, British Columbia, or elsewhere. That they shouldn't be allowed to vote in, an Alberta election if they've resided here, paid income taxes in Alberta, those types of things, right? The thorny issue becomes whether or not all the landed immigrants who are not yet Canadian citizens that have, been flooded into Alberta over the last couple of years by Trudeau because Quebec wouldn't take them, right? Whether those people would be able to vote in an Alberta referendum, I mean, that's another question that'll have to be resolved. And I'm sure that the Kenney forces within cabinet and whatever will be doing everything they can to pass whatever laws they can to try to skew the referendum as much as they can in favor of their Liberal masters in Ottawa. But that's where we're at, and we'll just carry on.
Well, I got Marty up north. Jeff, do you have a few more minutes? I'm just I'm
good. I'm having lunch with a couple of buddies of mine in town at noon, so I'm gonna
let Marty up north. Marty, thanks for hopping on. I got you
Marty
sitting in the background. I figure another Albertan might as well just hop in.
No worries. Love listening to Jeff.
I'm so I didn't say anything that offended you this morning, Marty. I was trying. Nothing. No, nothing.
You're not serious. No, you can't.
Well, one of the things that I think is really interesting is you go down, you start this. What's happening is the conversation is happening. So if I go back, Jeff, you're like, I don't know why people are so attached to Canada. Well, that's been our life, and we've rallied around the flag for different things and the history and blah 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 blah. I could see things laughing and everything else. But I'm like, what's happening is, once upon a time, I had Dennis Modry on, and I remember I struggled with the Alberta first thought process because I'd always been Canada first. But if you don't start the conversation, then people don't get to actually wrestle with that. And that's what's beginning, is lots of Albertans are starting to wrestle with Alberta first versus Canada first. And there's a whole bunch of you that are way past that, are right where Jeff is at. And
in my mind, I've already laughed, right? And I'll just go ahead.
I like how you put it before, though, where you're in the same place and Canada left you. That really landed with me personally.
No, yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, when you take a little, like a teeny weeny little grandmother, Tamara Leach, who I know very well and I have nothing but the highest respect for, and you literally fly her across the country in handcuffs and leg irons, right? Because she allegedly violated some bullshit bail condition for attending, an award ceremony with her lawyer in, whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just going like, I don't even believe that this is Canada anymore. On a mischief charge, no less. She's being hauled across the country on manacles. In my career as a lawyer, I've seen jurisdictions refuse to issue Canada-wide warrants or have people extradited back to Ontario, that had outstanding warrants for armed robbery, for God's sake. But here's this little 60-year-old Indigenous woman being hauled across the country in leg irons on a goddamn mischief charge. Excuse my language. Like this, that's to me. And when Trudeau, set out the riot horses to run over that Indigenous elder in Ottawa peacefully protesting, and that loser David Lametti and I can't remember the other jackass's name now, joking around.
Marco Mendocino.
Yeah, Mark Mendocino. Which interestingly is probably a version of liar in Italian, but anyway, Mendocino joking or claiming to have been only joking about trying to locate leopard tanks to run over the protesters with so that they could reenact Tiananmen Square in Canada, right? I mean, at that point, I wasn't Canadian anymore. I'm done. Like, I'm sorry. Like, people might not like to hear this, but I'm a fucking Albertan, and that's it. Like, I'm done.
If I may switch the conversation just slightly now that Marty's in, Carney was in, talking about, I think we all assume we're going to find out here pretty quick. Marty up north, folks, went to the Carney event in Calgary, and I was just kind of curious, like, what, was there 10 people there? What was the feeling? And then I'd be curious everyone's thoughts on Carney being the next, I assume, prime minister. Maybe it's not a foregone conclusion. It feels like it is.
Yeah. So that picture, by the way, is my my wife. No, because I needed assistance to get in.
Because you were on the do not. You were blacklisted.
I was blacklisted, but I mean, they accepted my vote. Freeland accepted my vote. It was a nightmare to register as a Liberal and then to qualify to vote. But I went through their convoluted process and I actually voted for Freeland. And maybe that's why they wouldn't let me in. Maybe it's not because I'm Marty up north. Maybe I'm on the list because I'm a Freeland supporter instead of a Carney supporter.
And did you vote for Freeland? Because of her support of the idea that Canada seeks an alliance with nuclear powers to help defend Canada against the United States? Was that why you supported Freeland, or?
No, I supported Freeland because she's a proud Albertan. I'm being very sarcastic here. No, I it was a strategic vote because I voted for Freeland because I think she would be the funniest opponent for Poilievre. I just want to see her redeem herself, and I'll say this: they tried to kick her out of the party, and she's putting up a really good fight. I mean, Carney is the selected, chosen one. They want to install him. It's not an election. Don't fool ourselves. But I thought Freeland put up a good fight, and I like underdogs. So, anyway.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, to your point, Sean. So there's about 300 people at the event, maybe 400, and I broke it down saying I think there was about 100 volunteers. I think there was about 100 true Carney fan, which completely surprised me. There's about 100 maybe liberals that are trying to decide if they like Carney or not, and then there was 100 fringe minority troublemakers like myself. I mean, it was awesome to see.
A third of the people who went there that weren't working there were fringe minorities coming to check it out, bringing their unacceptable views with them.
I could see them walking. I mean, so my personal story is I showed up there. I tried to get in, and I couldn't get in. They didn't have my name on the list. So then I walked back, and then I saw a friend, and I got in with him because there was a rule that you could bring a friend. And he tried, and he got in, but then they wouldn't let me in. So then I went back to the list. At this point, I'm looking for Andy Lee, and I'm looking for Wyatt, and then whatever. And Deidre, I'll mention her. Deidre saw me. She waved me over, and at that point I was dejected. I'm like, I'm not getting in. She's like, oh no, you're getting in. What she had done is the process of registering is so convoluted that she registered twice. She registered once, and then she thought she was unsuccessful, so she registered twice. So her name was actually on the list twice. And so I went in as her spouse, and when they said, well, your ID doesn't match the name, they said, oh, whatever. They finally gave up. And honestly, we got checked about 6 or 7 times. They could have simplified the process and give us a stamp, but no, every 10 yards in the line, there was somebody with a stack of names trying to find names on there. And if you weren't on there, you got sent back to the beginning. I mean, and I'll say this too, right? Like they're in a panic because I was at the injection of truth. You guys were there, right? On Monday night. And it's Monday night that I found out that Carney is coming to town. Like Monday night. So I'm a member of the Liberal Party. So Monday night I get an email saying, hey, Carney's coming to town. Click here to register. So I registered on Monday night. We knew that he was coming on Tuesday at 5:30, but we didn't know where. And that's when I got nervous. Like by 3:00, some of my buddies are saying, they know where. So anyways, they announced his arrival less than 24 hours in advance because they didn't want they wanted as small a crowd as possible. Mm-hmm. There was no media. He gave no interviews. He
said that he brought in local media, despite the fact that they kicked out Western Standard. But he said that they invited local media.
They provided, if you see what they did afterwards, they provided their own footage to local media, and local media were allowed to do whatever they want. But you didn't see any interview. He wasn't interviewed by anybody from local media. And that's why they didn't want guys like me in there, because we were going to tape. And I was nervous the whole time. I mean, you saw that, not nervous. Yeah, nervous. I mean, I'm being eyed by the RCMP and whatever. I mean, I know they're looking at me, right? At one point, they finally clued in. Maybe it was the fact that I'm wearing a blue hoodie. I got my big beard and I got a T-shirt that says I'm happy or whatever. Like, I do not look like the typical liberal. So I didn't want to press my luck. I played it casual, just held up my old handheld phone and recorded like a. But platitudes. I mean, he said nothing. Actually, not entirely platitude. To me, it felt almost like he had a rehearsed. Not felt like he had a rehearsed speech, teleprompted speech. But his speech was like standard Ontario Quebec fare. And he actually let out a couple of truth bombs for here in Alberta. I was like, whoa, you should have changed your speech, right? But it goes over most people's head.
Like what?
And they still, well, like he quite honestly talked about transfer payments and how, you know, we stand for we're kind, we're liberals, we look after everybody, but we can't redistribute money unless we are in power. So he used the word redistribute twice.
Well, talk about not reading the room. Or I suppose the Alberta Liberals are all for redistributing our money.
The Alberta Liberals they didn't care. I mean, that was what's fascinating. Like, if it was really, you know, intelligent people would have listened to him and gone, holy shit. Because, you know, he's like, Canada, on the one hand, he's like, Canada's not broken. You know, the Conservatives would have you believe Canada's broken. And he keeps saying Canada's not broken. But then 2 minutes later, he's like, you know, I'm a fighter. I learned to fix things, and I'm going to fix what's broken. Like, he's almost that language, right? He contradicts himself. I mean, he's like, Canada needs a new leader. Canadians are tired of the government, he almost said, and Canadians need change. I'm like, yeah, Canadians want change, but it ain't, you know, we don't want more liberals. We want change. So he was quick. I mean, he spoke for about 15 minutes, and not even 15, all teleprompted, including the jokes. And then he walked out without shaking hands. He shook one hand on his way out, and then they whisked him away because he had our event was supposed to start at 5:30. It didn't start till 7, and then he had another private event afterwards that was supposed to start at 7, which I guess probably started at 9.
Curious on this group of guys. Can Carney win the next federal election, assuming he is the next prime minister?
I hope he does.
But
no.
Can he?
Oh yeah.
No.
Well, I think so. Well, no, you're right, because he won't get Montreal. The bloc is going to throw all the Liberals out of Quebec, so they're not going to have Quebec. But I honestly think that Poilievre is in danger of losing Ontario, right? Because and here's why. And then Marty, you can tell me why I'm full of shit. Okay, so. What I
would also like to. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I'm
line
up
up.
for that. So, but anyway, my concern is, and I had a really, really, really long discussion with my local MP about this. I said, look, I'm really, really concerned that Pierre is following in the footsteps of Aaron O'Toole. And instead of standing up and saying, vaccines are wrong, this is wrong, mandates are wrong, this is a principled position that we're taking as a principled conservative party, he instead went, oh, but we have to be vaccinated, so we'll vaccinate you nicer. And and people need to be locked up, and we'll lock you up more kindly. It was like, you know, what the hell? Like, you know, he was not there for us. And as a result, people said, like, why do I want liberal light? If I want a fascist dictator, I'll vote for a fascist dictator. I don't need a pretend fascist dictator. Right. And then and I told my MP, and I said, that's what I'm really concerned about with Poilievre, is that he's going down this road where he's already said that he's not going to commit to ending the national embarrassment of Canada's gross underfunding of our NATO defense and international defense commitments by 100%. He's on the I'm going to continue to embezzle money from the United States for at least 5 or 6 more year plan, which I take, you know, if you believe in Canadian sovereignty, you can't accept our country not meeting its international defense obligations, right? So he lost me there. And then I told my MP, I said, listen, and then I said, all this tariff stuff, I said, he can't be liberal light on this. He's got to come out and be the adult in the room. He's got to come out with a really hard-hitting plan as to how we're going to, Canada as a country is going to completely address each and every one of Donald Trump's concerns, including NATO underfunding. And that's what prompted me to write my Substack, Little Justin Trudeau Starts a Tariff War, where I laid out a 13-point plan as to how the tariff war could have been completely avoided and would have been completely avoided, and how Canada could actually regain its self-respect globally as a meaningful, strategic defense partner, right?
Yeah, I take it back. I agree with you completely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Trudeau, Canada has been under liberal leadership for 70% of the 157 last years, right? So it's right, but just let me finish de facto. Give me a chance, please,
sure.
Dude. Like, man. Like,
that was the wind up. I just have one quick pitch, and then I'll finish. Okay, and then I'll shut up for at least 10 minutes. Okay, I promise. So, but the whole issue is and to finish on that, so I know that document got into Poilievre's hands from at least two different sources, right? But the issue for Poilievre is that he thinks, and he's being advised, that Trump and Quebec and the Maritimes have such great Trump derangement syndrome that he cannot come out and say, President Trump, you're right, we're sorry, and we're going to solve these problems. So he's now basically on the Trump bashing train with all the Trump deranged people, and he thinks that's going to get him elected. I think it's going to cost him the election because, again, they're going to go like, well, why should we vote for you? Because we're Trump deranged and you're not as Trump deranged as Carney is. So we'll vote for the guy that's really Trump deranged. And I think that's what's going to happen. I'll shut up now. Sorry, Mike.
He's stuck between a rock and a hard place. I mean, he has to, like, I've talked to people, a lot of people, and people who were big Trump fans are suddenly not fans of Trump. So, and Pierre was almost quoting Trump word for word a month ago. And now, so Pierre has to be very careful with that. I think what Pierre's hoping for right now is that Trump does what he's doing, reverses himself, and then takes himself out of the equation. So let's take Trump out of the equation. If Trump is out of the equation, and we're just back to Canada of 4 months ago, people tend to vote liberals, and they were not going to vote for Trudeau anymore. That's a fact. And Carney presents them an opportunity. People wanted to have an excuse to vote liberal. They do. And so Carney's giving them that excuse. I'm hoping that Carney does win. I'm hoping he misreads the opinion and goes into an early election. That would be fantastic. Because if Pierre's best hope right now is that actually Carney stays a little bit longer so he can have that one-on-one debate in the House of Commons and make him look like an idiot. I mean, Carney is not a politician. He even said it the other day, and the House of Commons has nothing to do with common sense, right? It's a blood sport, and if Carney is in the House of Commons against Poilievre, he will look like a clown. Like they can't. That's
not a differentiator in the Liberal leadership, though. You're literally
no, not in the leadership,
one of their
but
candidates.
it's a differentiator in the next federal election if they don't steal it from us. The question was simply, can Carney win? I think he can. There's a path to victory for Carney, and the path to victory for Carney is Trump continuing to do what he's doing, which puts Poilievre between a rock and a hard place, and the Liberals are going to keep taking advantage of that. So there is a path for victory for Carney. If Trump shuts up, reverses himself a little bit on these tariffs, then he takes away that path to victory for Carney, and then it's back to Poilievre's. And I totally agree with Jeff. It is Poilievre's to win, but he has to be extremely strategic. He's going to have to pivot and do something, because if he goes exactly down this path, if it comes down to resumes and popularity, Poilievre's going to lose, man, because the Carney's he's a better looking guy. He's better spoken in public, and people are just going to go, he has a nice resume. Look, he worked at the Bank of England. They don't even know what the fuck that means, but everybody's going to go, look, he worked at the bank. He worked at the Bank of England. That's got to be good. I mean, that was funny.
He's at lunch with the king.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is that you guys are
sorry. 10 minutes of nowhere. I'm nowhere near. I'll shut up.
Let me say one quick thing. Like, even at the speech on Monday, or on Tuesday, he joked about he attacks Poilievre that way. Like, he attacked Poilievre for being a career politician, and the crowd applauds him, which is hilarious because the crowd is a crowd of career civil servants. You know what I mean? And liberal voters are dumb, man. Holy smokes!
No, they
don't underestimate what they'll do.
But a month ago, Poilievre was basically looking at an open net. The Liberals had screwed everything up to the point where all he has to do is show up, say a couple pithy things, have a decent comms team, and it's his to lose. And then now it's actually gotten interesting. Now to your point, he's got to be strategic. He's got to be smart about this. And to Jeff's point, saying that you're just slightly different than the Liberals it's not a differentiator, right? The smart thing for him to do would say, look, I don't care what you think about the guy. He brought up some valid points about the shit that's happening in this country. Here's exactly what the Liberals have been doing wrong, and it doesn't matter who points it out. It's still wrong regardless.
Actually, you're,
That would
you're
be the
spot
smart
on.
thing to say.
What Trump is doing is he's pointing out Trump should be a wake up call for all of us, and Poiliev should just say Trump is right, and he's bringing up everything that's wrong with us, which is what I've been bringing up, and we're going to fix it, and I'm going to be an ally of Trump's. I think there is definitely a good path there. I mean, what's Trump saying? Protect your border, boost your economy, get productive, lower your taxes, fight inefficiency in your government, get rid of corruption. I mean, like, why wouldn't that sell? Like, it's crazy.
But if I watch, we did the Ontario live election coverage, and when I talk to Ontarians, Tews, you can disagree or back me up on this. They like they don't like Doug Ford, but they had no other option. And if you watch the playbook of what Doug Ford did, he created Trump as the enemy and ran off that. Or am I wrong on how he presented it? Isn't that how he won Ontario again? I mean, other than they had no other option.
That was exactly why he called the snap election, just because of that. He saw an opportunity with Trump as the enemy. Well played, Doug.
But
played.
Why he won as well or as strongly as soundly as he did was because he was going up against a couple fucking idiots, right? Like I am not a huge scrapper, but I will fight as many babies as you want to throw at me.
Elbows up, man. Elbows up. Elbows up. They even said that at the Carney rally the other day. Elbows up. We don't teach that in hockey, man. Sean, is that something you teach? Elbows up in hockey?
It's a callback to Gordy.
It's a callback to Gordy.
I know. It's like
yes. Any final thoughts before we let you boys out of here? Jeff, you've been silent for probably 4 minutes.
Jeff will pause the clock. You may now speak.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Whether it's
look at how red-faced you are from being quiet this long. Give us some thoughts.
Whether it's on Carney or it's on the delegation or anything. Just any final thoughts before.
No. But I want to go back to the Carney thing. I've set up a website so people can really easily access my Substack now. It's called albertastatehood.com. So it's capital A Alberta, capital S statehood.com. And if you go into my Substacks and read that little Justin Trudeau starts a tariff war and look at the 13-point plan that I drafted that in consultation with Lieutenant Colonel David Redmond, who's who's an actual expert in national defense and protecting the border after 9/11. And, with my conservative member of parliament, as a 13-point plan that Poilievre could run on, and if he would and it doesn't have to be, I love Trump, whatever, but this is what we have to do as a country to get back on track. That plan would get him elected, and so I'd like, people to consider that. And I would certainly, if anybody in and around Pierre are listening, please go back and revisit that Substack. You're not going to win as liberal light. You have to differentiate yourselves and find a better way to go. The other thing that I'd just like to say again, finally, is for everybody watching, if you support Alberta statehood, either as an independent nation with an economic union with the U.S., as a territory or as a state, please go to APP and volunteer, sign up with APP, make a donation. The more people, the more members we have in APP, the more we threaten the UCP establishment in this party. And to the extent that we still have so many Kenny cabinet ministers, I think I'm going back to referring to the UCP as the United Corruption Party of Alberta. So the more people that sign up for APP, the more it's going to force Danielle to consider our legitimate need to have a referendum within 6 months. So anyway, I'm asking my fellow Albertans for your support. This is a call to engage, not a call to arms, but a call to engage in a very, very vibrant, important democratic process. And I really look forward to having all of your support. So thank you for having me on, Sean and Tews. I really appreciate it. Marty, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, appreciate it. Marty, any final thoughts?
Closing thoughts, just real quick. In Karina Gould's campaign material, she was trying to distinguish herself from Carney and Freeland by saying she wasn't going to be conservative light, which is bizarre. But so like the liberals don't want to be conservative lights, and I think the conservatives shouldn't be light liberals. Final thought is looking forward, if we next week we have a new prime minister, and as it stands, it's a sad state in Canada because we're about to choose less than 100,000 people are going to choose the next prime minister of Canada. That's pathetic. That's less people than I have followers on Twitter.
There you go. Jeff Rath and Marty up north, thanks for hopping on with us this morning.
Real pleasure, guys. Tews, Sean, thank you very much.
There you go, folks. Okay, that twos. I'm watching the clock. We got 21.
Let's just go straight rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Here we go. Come on, let's
Okay.
go.
All right. Where do we want to start?
Well, I don't know. Do you want to? How about we start with former AHS head Anthony Metazalopoulos? Holy Mackinac, is that a name? Is suing the province for wrongful dismissal, alleging she was fired in January for looking into overpays on contracts with private surgical providers. The lawsuit also alleges she faced political pressures, including from Premier Daniel Smith's office, to sign off on deals despite outstanding questions surrounding excessive costs and who was benefiting.
You know, it's interesting. This is maybe just a touch of inside baseball, but I was talking with somebody about this, and she had sent an email to the justice minister that she's attempting to sue over this a little while ago, and the reply was, cool, I want to hear more about this. Can you expand on it? And then tell us more about this. What's going on? We need to know what's going on. And it was just met with silence, 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 silence. And it's really interesting because she's saying, I presented this to the board of AHS, and then they said we should pursue an investigation or, put this over to the RCMP. And then the entire board was fired. But here's the thing, is the entire board was fired because they fucking sucked. And so it's interesting because the way I see it, this goes one of two ways. Is you've got either everybody sucks, you've got the corruption, and you've got the largesse, if you will, or the other way is that AHS is trying to do, they're just trying to lash out because their lucrative careers of doing fuck all have been sidelined by some attempts at accountability. I don't know which way it's going to go. I know that the NDP, really interesting takes on this. Like, have you seen what Nenshi had to say about this?
Yes, but you can fire away.
Okay, I got to find the damn thing. Where the hell is Nenshi in all of this?
Where
I've got
is
so many. Here we go. So Nenshi says, we're happy RCMP is investigating hashtag corrupt care scandal. They even went so far as to name it. And as far as I know, they're the only people who called it that. These allegations of bloated contracts are incredibly serious. If you have information we want to hear from you, email us at corruptcare@albertandp.ca. I'm going to say right now, if you have information about corruption in the government, you take it to the fucking police, not a political party. Secondly, this is just classic pot kettle black situation. So the point that the NDP are taking umbrage with is that people are using political connections to make government contracts more expensive, which is literally the entire fucking playbook for the NDP and unions in our entire generation. It's let's vote in the NDP because they will give us bloated contracts where we have no accountability, we get nothing fucking done, and we pay way too much for it, but the money goes into the insiders' pockets. That's literally how the NDP run provincially and federally. And so for them to say, you know what, it's a damn shame that a political party is giving their political friends and donors preferential contracts with no accountability and overinflated price tags to their own personal betterment, that's fucking insane. That's literally how the NDP run. So maybe they might want to sit this one the fuck out.
You brought up the headline with Jeff Rath, but this is Freeland and nukes. This is what he was talking about. Canada should seek closer ties with Britain because its nuclear weapons can help protect the country against Donald Trump. And I'm going to go a little further. In order to guarantee our security, Ms. Freeland said she would build a closer security partnership with the European NATO allies, and I would be sure that France and Britain were there, who possessed nuclear weapons. I would be working urgently with those partners to build a closer security relationship in a time when the United States can be a threat. Daniel Smith thought that was a ludicrous statement to make. I would agree.
It is. Just imagine for a second that the actual nuclear holocaust that we've been worried about for decades with the Ruskies and the Americans actually ended up getting started by a petulant Laurentian idiot trying to bomb Chicago.
tariffs. I mean, New Zealand, Australian, and U.S. dairy companies are accusing Canada of dumping low-priced milk products on the world markets and are asking their governments to intervene. Trump removes tariffs on anything under the USMCA agreement with Mexico until April 2nd.
At what point are we going to admit in Canada that this diarrhea cartel is bad for us?
Katie Simpson, senior correspondent at the CBC, according to senior Canadian government source, Trump became heated with Canada's protections around their dairy sector, said it's an example of how U.S. is treated poorly. That is where the profanity was used by the U.S. president. Sources say that Trudeau did not use profanity, whether or not that's true. And then you got the Florida government, Governor DeSantis, quoted 3.3 million visitors from Canada. That's not much boycott in my books. Maybe they wanted to get a glimpse of what a Stanley Cup winning hockey team actually looks like.
This is actually pretty good.
24 saw more than 142 million visitors come to the state of Florida. This includes 3.3 million visitors from Canada. That's not much of a boycott in my book. Maybe they wanted to get a glimpse of what a Stanley Cup winning hockey team actually looks like.
How do you feel about that, Sean?
Yeah, I'm a little bit sour at that. Trudeau also quoted, "Yeah, we're probably going to keep booing the American anthem." I don't know if you want to play that clip. Just like Justin Trudeau cannot get out of the way fast enough. Listen to this. Put it back up on screen too.
Canadians are angry. We're going to choose to not go on vacation in Florida or Old Orchard Beach. Or
just to be clear, nobody in Canada at this state in the fucking economy is choosing not to go on vacation. They can't fucking afford it because of the fuck stick in the middle of our screen right now.
Wherever. We're going to choose to try to buy Canadian products and forego bourbon and other classic American products. And yeah, we're probably going to keep booing the American anthem. But let me tell Americans, we're not booing you. We're not booing your teams.
This is the most important part of this clip, by the way.
Players. We're booing a policy that is designed to hurt us.
Do you remember, Sean, way back, go into the Wayback Machine, and remember when people were saying we need to close the borders because there's this virus running loose in China? And people like that fuckhead told us to our faces that we were being racist when we were saying anything critical of China and the fact that they had 2 people imprisoned for like 3 fucking years. Don't be racist. Don't be racist. Anything you're saying bad against the Chinese government just gets written off as racism. And then here's him when it's his thing that he's talking about, saying, "Oh, we're not saying this against the people. We're saying it against the politicians." Get the fuck out of here. The shoe has to go on both feet. That's not a valid metaphor, but you know what I'm saying.
Daniel Smith commented, "No further purchase of U.S. alcohol or new VLTs will be permitted." Then this quoted further, "This economic attack on our country, combined with the continued talk of using economic force to facilitate the annexation of our country, has broken trust between our two nations in a profound way. It is a betrayal of a deep, abiding friendship. But let there be no mistake, as independent as we are, Albertans are strong and loyal Canadians." I would hearken back.
Why don't you just leave it up to us? If the politicians in our country have done such a great job of rallying Canadians, if they've done such a wonderful job of reigniting this long dormant patriotism that all these fucking Canada Post workers and fucking passport office workers have recently rediscovered, if they've done such a wonderful job of this, they don't need to make it illegal. American beer is already garbage. Why do you have to make it illegal? You don't have to make it illegal. It already sucks. All these politicians are being goddamned idiots. And Danielle Smith was going on about this whole like, ooh, Alberta's not going to be a 51st state. Look, Danielle, we already have a far left talking point, Laurentian boosting idiot in Alberta politics. We don't need another one. If we wanted somebody who was going to say dumb shit like this, we would all rally behind Naheed Nenshi. But we're not doing that. So be better. Do better.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Thursday announced $37 billion in childcare programs with 11 provinces and territories and has attempted to make it irrevocable for future governments. Quoted, "I've been working with our provincial and territorial partners to make sure that families can rely on this system, not just for years to come, but will allow the system to lock in to become something that no government a year from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now could ever go back on."
Well, how many times have I said in previous episodes that Trudeau is going to raise the fields behind him on his way out during his forced retreat? This is him just fucking things over. This is why when people give their 2 weeks notice, quite often you just say, okay, well, you know what? We'll pay you for the next 2 weeks. Go home, stay home. Don't wreck anything. This is what happens. It would say, okay, well, yeah, he's quitting, but let's just leave him in charge for a while. And then on his way out, he's like, I'm going to fuck over everybody because what are you going to do about it?
Let's come a little closer home. Saskatchewan. 6 Regina teens are facing assault charges after taking part in a Catch a Predator TikTok trend. They would create an online profile on Grindr, masquerading as a 15-year-old boy to confront suspected predators in meetups. At least 4 such confrontations led to assault charges against youth. I'm going to read about the first one. The suspects
not just assault charges, but also theft charges. Continue.
Suspects were posing, this is quoted from the police, the suspects were posing as a 15-year-old boy during the online interaction and then filming the subsequent assaults with the intention to share on social media platforms as part of a Catch a Predator online trend. When officers arrived, they located a male youth holding a silver piece of pipe in the air, facing an adult male who was injured. The police service said officers were able to de-escalate the situation and take the first suspect into custody. The victim was treated for injuries in a local hospital and released, the police service said, and an investigation revealed 2 other male suspects were also involved in the alleged assault. A 15-year-old boy, a 16-year-old boy, a 17-year-old boy, all are facing charges of aggravated assault connection that incident, the police service said.
Now, I just want to point out this. So one of the other things, the assault charges, but also theft charges. The second case happened October 12th, 2024, when a man arranged a meetup through the dating app. When he arrived at the proposed address in the 2200 block of Edward Street, he reported being assaulted outside the residence by 6 or 7 males wearing masks. The suspects also took alcohol from the victim before leaving. This fucking predator showed up to get a fucking child drunk so that he could sexually assault them. These guys beat them up and took his booze away, and they charged them with theft. This is the country we're living in. Trump, you want to do some tariff shit? You say we're gonna tariff more of your shit until you fucking crack down on this. Here's how ineffectual our fucking RCMP is that a 13-year-old boy and some of his buddies can set up to catch a predator, and it becomes an entire fucking ring of them easily. And then these guys just keep showing up. And where are the cops on this? This isn't a question of whether you think what they're doing is right or wrong, because A, what they're doing is right, absolutely. But B, if a 13-year-old kid can catch a fucking predator and then do it multiple times in the same fucking city, there's something wrong with our fucking justice system.
Ruby Dahlia says that Canada needs to withdraw from the Paris Accord and end the carbon tax. I think she's more conservative than conservatives.
Yeah, like seriously, you've got Polyev trying to be Aaron O'Toole all over again, like Jeff was talking about before, and you've got a liberal leadership hopeful that's been ousted coming up on his right-hand side. Look, Polyev, if everything we said before wasn't a wake-up call, how about the fact that you are further left than one of the liberal leadership candidates?
Drug labs. The multiple stories here. Cause of deadly Langley, BC explosion may be consistent with illegal drug lab, says police. No kidding. RCM confirmed.
Here, I just want to point out. Here's the picture from it. This is the blown up house, and I don't know how many random drums you keep in your house, but there's a lot of random fucking drums in the debris of this fucking explosion.
They say it seems to be consistent with that found in a illegal drug lab, but they're not the only ones. Quebec, on Friday, the Mounties were still dismantling the clandestine lab in Gore, Quebec, about 90 kilometers northwest of Montreal. Officers also found a hidden room underneath the garage where they found a synthetic drug lab. There you go. There you go, Twos. After
Now,
the search,
it's-
they seized large quantities of chemicals, precursors, and excipients, as well as pill press and other equipment. If you scroll down in that article, you'll see the giant pill press, I believe. Keep going, right there. I believe that's the pill press. Anyways,
Okay.
For synthesizing suspected methamphetamine and producing several million pills is what they got in Quebec. And then New Brunswick, RCMP.
Well, I just want to point out this first picture. Anybody who's an avid home brewer is looking at this picture and being like, holy shit, I've got that stuff. I've got that stuff. I've got that stuff. I wonder if I'm on a watch list.
RCMP and Richie Bucto, I don't know if that's right, continue to investigate about how 40,000 pills with an estimated street value of 200 grand ended up in a wooded area. So, would you look at that? There's
I would
really-
say climate change. Obviously.
Oh man. And then
So- They found 40,000 pills worth 200 grand in the woods. Now, if they were
Right
having
there.
fun with it,
Right
they
there.
would say
Right there.
something like, hey guys, we found a bunch of medication in the woods. If you're looking for it, drop by the precinct and you can claim it. That's what they should be saying.
Yes. And then you have this group right here. Okay. I'll just bring it up. It says big theft bust. Peel police announced 5 arrests made in prolific theft ring targeting LCBO alcohol. And you can see on the bottom.
These guys are going around stealing booze in Ontario. I guess they're not going to be able to steal American booze anymore because they're off the shelf again. Imagine how much you must hate your fucking job if you work at one of the liquor stores in Ontario where it's put all the booze on the shelf, take all the American booze off, put it back on, take it all off, put it all on, take it all off. Oh my God. But yes, so these guys, you've got Shamdeep Singh, Simranjit Singh, Samanpreet Singh, Anuj Kumar, and Prabpreet Singh. Sing with me, sing for the year, sing for the laughter, sing for the tear.
You got, you remember we were plotting a bunch of places getting rid of the DEI? Well, the University of Alberta is hiring a dean of public health with a salary range of 248 grand to 364 grand. And the job requirements include a demonstrated commitment to DEI.
Yes. Despite the fact that supposedly the UCP has put forth a thing saying that if you're focusing on DEI, your funding is going to get cut as far as universities go. So they're doing it despite this. I wonder if they're going to face any pushback. The other thing is that this is the low end of this is 248,000 and the high end is over 350. This person has the potential to make almost as much money as the fucking prime minister. And not even dean of the whole unit, like not even president of the whole university. You're dean of a specific segment of it, which means that presumably the guy who runs the fucking university or whoever it is, I'm assuming it's a guy, but looking at this, well, maybe they do DEI there too. Okay. Presumably that person makes more. Can you honestly tell me that you get much better results by throwing $364,000 at the salary of one of your top brass? Come on. That is not responsible use of the fucking funneled taxpayer dollars.
Here you got Elizabeth May confirms discussions with the Liberals and the NDP to join forces to prevent a single party from forming a majority with 100% power with less than 50% of public support. Isn't that just rich?
Yes. So here, I'm gonna play just a bit of this.
Commitment to being willing to talk to other parties to talk about what it takes
Just watch her eyes in this.
past the post voting system to remind Canadians that we don't elect a prime minister in this country. We elect a parliament. There are currently 5 parties in the House of Commons. And if we were to find a way to cooperate, we could ensure at least that neither one of the big parties gets a false majority with 100% of the power with less than 50% of public support.
So what she's saying is that a plurality for the prime minister is no longer acceptable. And what she's getting at here is what's happened in Germany, what happened in France. I think it happened in Brazil too, but don't quote me on that, where they just the parties that don't want the far right ridiculous right-wing party to win, they just pick one. Okay, I'm not going to run candidates in these ridings. You're not going to.
Everybody says they can't see what you just saw. So your desktop share, I saw it. I don't know if that's everyone, but
Okay, well, whatever. Okay, we'll go without it for the rest of it. But the point is, well, that's fine. I mean, we can adapt.
we got like 30 seconds left. I gave twos until
Jesus
quarter
Christ.
after.
Okay,
You know,
all right. Okay,
so we're gonna sit here and talk.
Elizabeth May wants to subvert democracy by
you.
only running candidates in certain ridings and getting the Liberals and the NDP on board with that, so that they can just what people were wanting to do with Harper 10 years ago. Okay, next one. Thousands of public servants in biggest federal departments breaking remote work rules. DND saw lowest rates of compliance. These people do not give a shit about doing what they're actually being paid for because they get paid anyway. Fuck them. Bring on Doge. Blacklocks. Hot mic moment. Shit. I really wanted the fucking screen sharing.
No. They can hear it. So play the audio. We'll play the audio. Play the audio.
Blacklock. There's a couple people here who I am absolutely check the list to make sure who's listening. Absolutely not keen to give questions to. I do not want to be in a situation where we're allowing blacklocks to be asking us.
So yeah, that is the Bank of Canada media director saying he doesn't want to answer. Okay, and
anything from Blacklocks.
Blacklocks, as much as I love to point out how unbiased I am, unequivocally the least biased of all media in this country, probably in most of the world, if not all of it, is Blacklocks. They don't do any opinion columns. It's literally just, these are the FOIPs. This is what we got. This is what happened. Here's the money. Here's the money. Here's the money. And as somebody who's the director of the Bank of Canada, nothing would make them more mad than following the money.
The Maverick Party, no more. Effective February 28th.
Yes. So now that Maverick Party has shut down, Colin Krieger can pass the mantle on, and the worst political leader in this entire fucking country is now Jagmeet Singh.
America. A liberal woman gets sterilized in an effort to prevent making any Nazi babies. You heard that correct, folks.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the fact that she had a moment of honest conversation with herself.
Here, watch this video, okay? Watch this video. This is right here. We're gonna blow this up. You don't need the sound on for this one. Just watch. This is South Korea. So the Southern Korean Air Force, in a joint exercise with the United States on Thursday, accidentally dropped 8 bombs on their own citizens in the village of Dongmyeon in whatever province. You get the point.
Yeah. So it was supposed to be just a training exercise. And then presumably some DEI hire got the directions wrong, and they ended up delivering the bombs at the wrong place.
You know, you think you're having a bad day, and then that goes on. Hoofda. You got Regina. On a daily basis, a Regina ambulance sends out a code 0 radio alert when there are no available units because all of them are on assignment. EMTs tell us the shortage is a serious problem, largely due to patients with non-emergency issues, essentially using ambulances as a personal taxi to get to the emergency room. They cite stubbed toes as one of the things.
And hangovers. So let me just find it here real quick. Just think about you calling the ambulance for a hangover. People, like, I get it. I get it. I have been
hangover,
there.
stub toe. Oh,
I have been there. I have had hangovers where I'm thinking the best way to handle this is probably a Stars helicopter right now. They've been that bad. I can appreciate it where you're coming from, but the difference is that I didn't fucking call an ambulance because I drank too much rye whiskey. As if there's a such thing.
Back to back to back. Home runs.
I don't know if this has ever happened in the major leagues before, but
3 pitches, 3 home runs.
Yeah, 3 pitches in a row. Detroit got against the Phillies, I think it was.
Yeah, and preseason ball.
Well, spring training, preseason. Yeah. BC planning legislation that could toll trucks traveling to Alaska, EB says. And if you go all the way to the bottom of this CBC article, and I mean all the way to the bottom, freight to Alaska, air less than 5%, ground less than 5%, maritime more than 90%. So I get the fact that you want to just, this is virtue signaling and spending a whole bunch of stupid government dollars with no fucking benefit. Oh, we're going to stick it. We're going to stick it to the Americans because we're going to toll all the freight that comes up through BC to Alaska. Well, guess what? It's fuck all of a very small number. Because, I mean, what does Alaska have for population? Maybe 200,000 people? It's got less than a small city. Well, a decent-sized city. And 5% of that, less than 5% of it, gets driven up there. Almost all of it. I mean, Anchorage is literally an anchorage where boats go. That's in the name. David Eby, that's in the fucking name.
Justin Trudeau took down a video from 2015 where he went on a tirade about Canada is a broken country. And of course, Twitter being Twitter, X being X, people found the video, then posted it. And I mean,
so somebody had called out Justin Trudeau because he's saying, oh, yeah, Poilievre keeps saying the country's broken. And then somebody actually found in the old Trudeau archives him being the OG Canada is broken video guy. And they put it up. And then Trudeau took the video down. And they're like, well, look at this. Trudeau is the OG Canada's broken guy. So, I mean, there's one thing he got right.
This lady let go for twerking. Here she is in an interview. You'll see the twerking. Here you go. There she go.
Yeah. So again, we're talking about Alaska. Alaska Airways fired this poor woman for shaking her booty on an airplane. Now, I think the main takeaway here is that she probably got fired for doing this while nobody was on board. Because let's face it, the flight industry has faced some issues lately. And if we got back to stewardesses like this, back when the airways were great, I feel like more people would want to fly.
The Prime Minister was running late again. And of course, Rosie
Barton ran coverage for it. I guess if the audio,
we will excuse him. We will excuse him because
for the Prime Minister of Canada, he's running a little bit late. We will excuse him because times are difficult, and this is a challenging moment for the country. Remember, the Prime Minister, in his last week on the job, a new Liberal leader is being chosen.
So let me just point out real quick that this guy isn't late because times are difficult and he's facing an unprecedented crisis. He's late because he's been fucking late for every fucking thing for the entire time that he was prime minister.
You know what's crazy?
It. You know, the right answer. Sorry.
You know what's crazy about this? Joe Mama said, sorry, guys, none of your screen shares have been visible today, which is really odd because I can see everything.
I'm looking at them.
Yeah, that's weird.
I'm looking at them.
Weird. Anyways.
Okay. Well, whatever. The people listening while they drive have a leg up on everybody else this week.
I guess so.
But yeah, so I mean, the correct answer to this would have been Justin Trudeau is late. He's always fucking late. He's gonna go out the same way he ran every single day, which is to not be fucking on time for fucking anything. So thanks a lot, Justin. Now I got to cover on live air because your ass is fucking tardy.
I'm really okay. So this is a Spanish teacher was arrested on Tuesday for having a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old. She's 33.
And
guys, nobody can see this.
This is the worst time in the entire mashup for us to have some sort of display issues because, guys, this woman is ferociously attractive. Like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it's what
Dulce Flores, which sounds hot. Dulce Flores. Oh, and this woman is spicy. Mwah. And she got arrested for having sexual relations with a 17-year-old student. Look, regardless of where you stand on any of this,
you're gonna give her a pass. Is that what you're about to do?
If you're
about to give her a pass.
If you're a woman teacher having sex with one of your students and you're also incredibly, extremely fucking hot, that should not be illegal. There's no way that this is predatory. There's no way.
So we just talked about earlier on in the show, Saskatchewan boys reeling out predators and that, they were doing the right thing. Now Tuz is defending a very good looking teacher. I told him before we started, I'm like, why is this in here? But I'm curious what you have to say. And now I've heard it. And you didn't
look
surprise
at this picture. This picture of this woman that you guys can't see. Oh, she's a tamale, right? And so you say, all right, in what fucking universe would anything that she did with this kid be considered predatory?
Okay.
You could be the South Park episode where it's the kindergarten kid, Ike, having the relation with his kindergarten teacher. And if she looked like this, you'd be like, yeah, I get it. Because this isn't her saying we should knock boots. This is her saying, yeah, sure. Right? Like there's no way that this was her idea. Because the minute she walked into the room, every single guy in that classroom was like, oh, I hope I end up in the news over this.
Hooters bankruptcy. The news reporter held a moment of silence after finding out Hooters filed for bankruptcy while on national television.
And we can't show this.
We can't show it. We can't show it.
But
so
basically, just out of the blue, he's sitting there next to this lady and he's like, let's have a moment of silence. And so he closes his eyes for a minute. And she's like, what's going on? But she bows her head. And then he says, yeah, Hooters is going bankrupt.
Correct. Okay, finally.
No, not finally. Not finally.
Come on, we got it.
Gatineau.
I've given you an extra 10 minutes. Nobody cares about Gatineau. Nobody cares.
I get it, but we got to point out how fucking dumb they are. City of Gatineau received 370 tips in the first 2 weeks of a crackdown on out-of-province plates. They put out a public call and said, some of your neighbors are doing shit that the government doesn't agree with. We want you to report them. And 370 people in the great fucking bureaucratic city of Gatineau, fucking Quebec, turned in their neighbors. We have learned nothing from COVID.
Happy news, Tews. Happy news. I don't know if people can't see this, but anyway,
people can't see this.
The tweet says, a humble brag. 11 years ago, I had a window replaced and told the contractor, hey, let me grab that hardware in case I need it, and threw it in the junk drawer. My wife mocked me. Today, 11 years later, a contractor working in a different room said, man, I wish we could get the exact hardware to replace a busted piece. And he went, hang on a second. Took me 11 years, but checkmate. I feel so vindicated.
Oh, absolutely. This is wonderful. This is the kind of stuff I live for, because we all do this. And I may be a little bit more overboard because I'll put it in a Ziploc bag and I'll label the Ziploc bag with what exactly the hardware is. So you're not just looking through a random drawer or a bin. But when you're like, oh, where are the screws for that thing? You find, oh, here's the bag. Boom. It's all in there, good to go.
You're one of those. You're one of those. I feel like in every relationship, there's one of those. And then there's one like me who's just like, I'm never going to use this. In the dumpster it goes. In the dumpster. I would not hold on to that for 11 years. That's me. Twos, community notes. Let's call some things out before we get out of here today.
There was way back in the comments.
Yes, there was. You look for that. I'm gonna read this one out. A veteran and RCMP rendezvous fishing weekend, March 15th, 16th, 17th at Keepa Bisca Regional Park, Saskatchewan. All are welcome. Some accommodations are still available, and there is no limit for day trip visitors. For info, call Sheridan Ellingson, 306-873-0595. I'm sorry, where is Kippa Biscuit Regional Park? I don't even know if I got that right. Marty Bowe's 16th annual Tough Enough to Wear Pink Rec Hockey Tournament in Neilburg, March 23rd, 24th. All proceeds go to Lloyd Health Foundation, Goats, Christmas Wish, and local family in need. Silent auction, door prizes, and cash bar downstairs in the pit.
Why does Neilburg have to do a special thing for wearing pink? Isn't that your guys' uniform?
Twos, Mashup, 148.
Yep. And Earl, by the way, my 17-year-old self kind of agrees with twos. I assume we're talking about the teacher.
Yes, you are.
There's no way it was her idea.
Mashup 148. in the books. I could argue about this, but I know we got construction going on here today, not in this place, just right outside the door. I told Twos 11:15, 13. Twos. Does Twos find a way to squeeze out 13 more minutes? Of course he does. Mashup 148.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much.
Marty Bose, I remember when I used to think you were funny. Correct. Folks, that'll do it for us today. Twos, as always, we'll catch up to you next week.
All right, Marty, keep it in the pink.
Welcome to the Mashup.
Tell me whether I'm wrong or right. East or west, up or down, side to side. I sit to stand and fall to fly. Of all of my impulsive plans, popping, locking, salsa dances on demand. I follow leading off the map and stop the chatter, scream happily.
Welcome to the Mashup.
Welcome to the mashup. Welcome to the mashup.